Hello Linux lovers, my name's Wimpy, welcome to my world. Right, we've got a few things on the agenda today. Most importantly, we're going to be looking at OBS Studio Portable and automating their builds in GitHub. Good morning, Paul, good morning. I can rely on you. I'm working on something specifically because you do this. I'm working on a little feature just for you. I'm working on a bunch of stuff which OBS Portable now makes possible. Maybe we'll take a little peek at that in a bit as to why this is useful to me. So OBS Studio Portable for Ubuntu are portable builds for Ubuntu that include all of the plugins so that you can have an easily move aroundable, configurable, discrete instances of OBS. And Dani, who's here in chat, has made an excellent pull request to the project, which allows the scripts I've created to run in the GitHub Actions so that the releases can be automated through GitHub workflows. So we're going to give that a try because I'm very interested to see how that's going to work. So that's the main cut and thrust of it. I think when we come to do a test build, it'll take about half an hour. So I've got a couple of other things to discuss whilst we're waiting for the bits to switch on the GitHub infrastructure. So I have some controllers here. Maybe if Yannick joins, we'll find out why I've got my controllers out. And I've also got, I want some feedback. I want some feedback on an idea for naming a potential, well no, not a potential, a project that we're going to make, I'm going to make. Hopefully some of you will be interested in. Hello, Yannick. I'll catch up on the chat in just a second. So it's good you're here, Yannick. I've got my controllers here. We'll have a look at those a bit later. And what was the other thing I wanted to discuss? Oh yeah, I've got an idea for the Deb Get project to tie in with Hacktoberfest. So I just want to get some sort of feedback on that as well and maybe start to flesh out that idea. But the focus is going to be on OBS Studio Portable. So welcome back, Dani. Thank you, Dani, for your fine work. I'm just going to switch my earbuds over because these ones are not working properly. So I'll just get those ones down. One moment. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying one moment. I can still talk. It's just I can't hear what's going on with the computer or monitor myself properly. There. Is that gonna... I think that'll kick in at some point. I don't hear any music yet. Hopefully that will catch up in just a moment. He hopes. If not, I'm going to have to switch them again. So yeah, thanks for the pull request, Dani. That's amazing. I've made one very subtle change to that. Just to accommodate GitHub secrets is what I wanted to make work. I don't know if it's working, we'll find out. We'll test all of that. So welcome back, Brave Sir Jess. It's been a while, good to see you again. Hello Phil, thanks for stopping by. Morning Padza, hello Takov. Hey Takov, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when Paul, you know, does the whole hello thing and all the words over, you know, play over, I think ages ago you suggested that those shouldn't play out over the whole stream, and I did remember that you suggested that, and it's now just overplays on top of my camera source. So I don't know if you've noticed that, but I do pay attention to the feedback. Yes, this is the Ogg camp where we met, I think, Takov. Not that I remember it. I must have been very drunk at the time. Hey Yannick. A quick Paul. No, I got something better for Paul. It's interesting that this one's being run. So this one is supposed to be a full screen animation. Some of them are full screen, but the little word overlays, they're all just in the camera. So we'll get back to all the quick stuff in a bit. We'll get back to naming stuff. Also, morning Popey, how you doing? Good to see you. Hello Martin AQ. There we go. So Tommy Luco's triggered off one of them, so they now just play over the camera. Even when, here you go, who's going to do it? Even when my camera's over here, for example, I've figured out all of the maths. Someone wants to trigger that. Hey Diogo, how you doing? And Tommy, there we go. See, look, I think we've got 3 triggered all at once. Oh, crikey, there we go. It can handle that. That's pretty good going, isn't it? So it does all work, at least I think so. Yeah, math's hard. Yes, Takov. Yeah, I remember you told me that we'd met and you bought me a pint, and I feel bad that I just do not remember at all. But maybe someday, not far from now, we'll actually get to meet again, and I can return the favour and buy you a pint. So, right, let's get into it. I think. Where should we start? Let's go here and actually look at the project itself. Why has that appeared over there? That's curious. That's the wrong thing entirely. Let's bring up the code editor. So essentially there is a script that I have written. In fact, let's look at it on GitHub. It'll be easier to sort of see what's going on there. So this project is these portable builds for OBS on Ubuntu. It's proving extremely useful for me. So I have these entry-level scripts here, which Dani added to. So Dani's pull request came in yesterday, I think. I jumped on this one quite quickly because it was really good. So Dani added a bunch of changes. So all the workflow stuff, which we might take a little bit of a look at later, and then some subtle changes to the scripts that I'd created in order for them to be configurable, run as a GitHub workflow, but also continue to work in my local use case, which was very thoughtful from Dani, because what this enables me to do is continue to make these builds locally, validate that they're all working, and then when I do a release on GitHub, I know that it's going to work properly. So some little changes to keep my local workflow but integrate with GitHub. So in terms of how they work, it's quite simple really. I say it's quite simple. It's simple if you're familiar with it, I suppose. It creates a systemd-nspawn container, and then it builds OBS inside that container effectively, and then extracts the assets at the end. So this is the main entry point, build auto. And what that actually does is it calls a bunch of other scripts. This is the one that Dani added to better integrate with GitHub workflows. There are older versions of OBS don't build on the latest version of Ubuntu, which is 22.10, and that's because the FFmpeg APIs are no longer supported by the newer versions of OBS, so it doesn't build. And then we have something that just makes sure the container that we're building in has been destroyed. Then we bootstrap a container, which uses Deb Bootstrap, and then we enter that container and we run this script here, obs portable.sh, which is a 600-line shell script that knows how to build OBS on multiple versions of OBS on multiple versions of Ubuntu, and then a script that extracts the assets, which are some tarballs, some signed tarballs, basically. So that's the sort of the main entry point that Dani has hooked up to GitHub workflows. So if we just go back, we can now actually have a look at Dani's workflow, and I'll have to say I am a novice with GitHub Actions, so I found this very useful because getting a pull request in the context of a project that I understand made it easier for me to sort of grok what these are doing here. So I don't know if the change I've made is going to work, and I'm going to ask Dani a question. Maybe it won't work, maybe it will, I don't know. I've added some secrets which I assume are just going to be exposed in the global environment of the OS that I'm running, Dani, I expect. So what does this one do? So this is the generate release notes. Is this on? Yeah, so when I create a tag, it's going to run these things. What does this one do? Create the draft release notes. Fair enough. And then the matrix here is building the matrix, the table of what versions of OBS to build against what versions of Ubuntu. Now, what I didn't understand that Dani explained is that the GitHub workflows run inside virtual machines, which is perfect because I'm using systemd-nspawn containers to do like the clean build environment. So it just means that stuff's going to work without any messing around. And my container wrapper scripts take care of standing up the correct versions of Ubuntu inside those containers. So all of Dani's stuff says run on Ubuntu latest, which is just fine, because what we care about is what actually happens inside those containers. So if everyone's following along so far, hopefully that makes sense. So this builds the list of containers to create and the versions of OBS to build inside. And this is actually the job that kicks off, and we'll find somewhere down here the call to OBS auto, which is, and then this is the first argument, which is the version of Ubuntu it should build on, and then this is the version of OBS that it should build inside that container. So that OBS, that build auto, wraps up, you know, all of the things and collects all of the artifacts at the end, which Dani has then got this additional piece here to upload the artifacts to the GitHub release. And then there's a publish piece here as well. So this is everything that Dani has done. And what I thought I would do is make a minor change to OBS Portable, and then we'll actually tag a release and see that this all whirs and runs and does the right thing. So let's just catch up on the chat here, because I see a bunch of old friends have turned up. So if I haven't already said good morning, Tommy, good morning, welcome back. Hey, Musical Coder, how you doing? Sorry I've not been streaming much. Getting back into it now. I think this is my third stream on my channel. Did a stream yesterday on the work channel, which was fun. That was a good one. Go and check that one out. But yeah, gonna try and get back into a regular cadence of streaming here at least 3 times a week, and I'm gonna throw in like a couple of ad hoc, maybe a bit shorter, but sort of in the evening streams, because I've got a better schedule in the evening than I had earlier in the year and last year. So I'd like to, when I'm just hobbying on some stuff, just do it on stream. So hopefully there'll be a bit more stream stuff going on. I've got some new project ideas which we'll get to a little bit later as well. So hello WSL Corsair, hello Nuno, how you doing? Right then, just checking. Hey Big Pod, good morning, how you doing? That's my colleague, Big Pod. Right, I think we're all caught up. So yes, hello to Nuno. I got to meet Nuno in person at KubeCon in Valencia in May. So conferences are fantastic for that. Probably the best thing about them is meeting your friends from the internet. Right, so let's go and look at the change that I've got queued up, because I've made a pull request to the project which does one simple thing. So if we have a look at this pull request, it basically bumps, there's a new version of the scene switcher, the automatic scene or advanced scene switcher plugin. So that's a version bump, so that's going to be the only change. And I'm only making this change in OBS Studio 28. So although I've configured this to build OBS 26 and 27, those 26 and 27 versions are kind of frozen, particularly the 26, because of the API changes in OBS. Some plugins are not backwards compatible, or at least current versions of plugins are not backwards compatible with those older versions of OBS. So I'm kind of going to freeze each of the major versions as they get superseded and sort of freeze their plugin configuration. But Dani's scripts will kick out new builds of all of those versions of OBS each time I do a release, and I've decided I'm fine with that because there's some consistency to be had there. So sorry you're jealous, Dani. Hello Java Apex, welcome to the stream, thank you for stopping by. So Java Apex asks a good question, and Dani, feel free to jump in here. So Java Apex asks, is there much of a difference between GitHub and GitLab, or is it roughly the same thing? The massively oversimplistic answer is they're kind of the same thing. You can do much of the same thing on both platforms. However, there is one key difference here with using GitHub for what we're doing here versus GitLab, which is the GitHub workflows run inside virtual machines, which means creating containers inside your workflows is much easier on GitHub than it is on GitLab, where the CI runners on GitLab are running in containers. So if you want to create containers within containers, that can sometimes be a little bit complex. So I'm very happy with my technology choices, because I initially created these build scripts just to run locally, just to create clean build environments, but it turns out they're very portable to GitHub workflows. So consequently, I'm going to double down on this workflow, and we're gonna come back to that, because I've got a project I've had in mind as I've been creating this one to do with systemd-nspawn containers. So hopefully that, from my perspective, that's the main difference between GitHub and GitLab with respect to this particular project. I know Dani and Big Pod, who are in the chat here, have done a lot more with both platforms respectively, and they can probably give you some more nuance in the differences there. There we go. So yes, I think Dani's said the same thing that I've just said. And yes, Dani, is Docker as far as I'm aware on GitLab that they're using. Right, okay, so this is the only change. We have the pull request here, and I've appropriately tagged it because a couple of days ago we did the kicking off Hacktoberfest. So all the projects that I host are Hacktoberfest enabled. So I'm trying to, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm trying to cheat the system by submitting pull requests to my own projects. I've already approved this one. I have also built this locally in the container and tested it. So we'll actually look at like how I do, whilst this is building on GitHub, we will test it locally, and I'll show like how easy it is to move configurations between multiple instances of OBS as a result of using these portable builds. Hello MDog, how you doing? And MDog says that they prefer the UI of GitHub. I need to up my GitHub CI/CD game in a big way, and I think Dani's given me the kickstart that I need to take this all a lot more seriously. So I think this is going to be something I'm really going to focus on. I'm going to create my build script. Everything I create now with a build in mind, I'm going to create in a way that I think this is portable to GitHub workflows. So thank you, Dani, because you have helped sort of kickstart me with this. So we're just gonna merge this into the project, and I'm pretty confident, he says, I'm pretty confident this is gonna work. So there's one other change I'm gonna make, and I need to think about how to automate this because this is going to be tedious. In the README, I have the basic steps of like how you would, you know, download and run a portable version, and it has the release number embedded in it. So I'm just going to go and update that like an animal, and submit another pull request that updates the documentation to use what will be today's release number. But I need to think about how maybe I can use Cogify to do the release number. I'm not going to do that now. I am just going to do the barbarian thing and just go and update the version number. But I think we need to automate that so that that is always reflective of the current build. So if I drop into a shell, I did build this earlier. No, that's the wrong project. OBS Studio Portable, and we've got the artifacts from my local builds, and today's build was this here. This is the revision number for today, so we'll take that and we'll drop that into the README. So we're gonna go to the mighty Git Kraken. We'll pull down the merged changes. We can toss that branch away now. We'll do a new branch, I think. Let's do, we'll call this prep release. So, so WSL Corsair, which is Nuno. I happen to know this is Nuno. Nuno says, channel points are here to say how amazing Wimpy and Dani are helping communities get better. Well, thank you. That's very kind words. I mean, I think the thanks is really down to Dani. The whole reason I'm doing this stream today is they made a fantastic change to one of my projects, which really enthused me to share this. So, you know, the code is all there. You can go and look at the project and pick through the workflow configuration and hopefully learn something from it. I've looked at GitHub CI. Actually, whilst I'm asking, what's the best resource to actually learn? Imagine you knew nothing and you had to read something to learn how to do GitHub actions and workflows. What's the best resource to go and learn that stuff? If somebody could share that, that would be extremely helpful, because that will be my evening reading for sure. Okay. So yeah, all thanks to Dani, because I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the fact that they'd done such a fantastic job. And Dani also says that they might submit a script to let that revision be generated automatically. So the revision is generated automatically. It's just not injected into the README automatically. I think that's the only place the revision doesn't propagate. I think everything else, it's called in the build scripts, it's referred to as stamp, is that revision number, and I think that is in there everywhere. But yeah, if you've got any ideas about how to do that, in the Deb Get project, we had a contribution which was to use Cogify to dynamically generate parts of the README file. So I was thinking of reusing that pattern for the revision number, which should be possible. Keep reading the rest. Okay. I might also say, oops, that disappeared. That ran away from me. I've been told to keep reading. I might also set the workflow to support workflow dispatch trigger. where you simply hit a button in the UI. Okay, rather than needing to pre-create the tag. Yes, because the tag is also the revision number. Just the way that I've set things up. So yeah, it could be, I suppose, couldn't it? It could be inherited from there. Hello, Cassie Dev. All things are good. How are you? So, MDog says, that reminds me, seeing Git Kraken, since they're doing away with the boards, is there an alternative that works in the same sort of way? Yeah, I never used the boards feature in Git Kraken. Isn't that didn't they get rid of it because GitHub and GitLab have both got Kanban style stuff now built into their platforms? I think that was the rationale. Nobody was using it. No, I think they called it Flow originally, and then it became boards or something like that. But I've never used it. I should spend more time investigating all of the different features of some of these tools. Although the problem is, if you adopt like a peripheral feature and then it goes away, it kind of messes up your flow. Yeah, M-Dog, I think you were among the few, right? Because I think that's why it was going away. They didn't see enough traction. Right, okay, let's go and do this quick. Oops, wrong virtual screen. That happens all the time, doesn't it? What am I doing here? Let's have a terminal. Right then. Oh, hello. What did I type? Oh, okay. Off by one error there, look. Okay. Let's do find and replace 22274, I think, or 75 was the last release. There we go. And that's going to be today's release, so we'll replace all of those. Why did you not replace all of those?
Thank you for the follow, Feisty Lobster.
Hello, feisty Lobster, I think my assistant meant to say. Hello and welcome to the stream. Why is that refusing to make these changes? Oh, because I put the wrong number in here. Right, let's do that. Replace all. There we go. So let's go and get that pushed up. So the other reason I like Git Kraken is I can sort of do these independent code reviews. You know, I can see everything that I've just changed here, and I can do a quick at a glance. I haven't overlooked anything or made any silly mistakes. Sometimes when I'm working on code, I've had the wrong window highlighted and I've pasted in random text into the code or something. Very good, Yannick. I'm under the sea now. I like this one. I've been investigating other ways to make this more authentic. Coming to a stream near you on this channel soon. I have found some fantastically good fun stuff to play with. Working on a couple of fun features. Hey Esme, how are you doing? Right then. So we'll take that. So let's just get that done. Get that. Let's do a push and prepare. Do it the right way. Yep, everything's very well here, Esme. All the better for seeing you. Thank you for stopping by. I guess it's officially your weekend now, right? So we'll just get that one done. There we go. And we'll go and deal with that. There we go. So we'll get that one merged in. I can't approve my own stuff, so we'll label it accordingly. Documentation, Oktoberfest accepted. Trying desperately to cheat the system. I'm going to report back whether I've successfully beaten the system or not. Well, we can get rid of that branch as well, can't we? In fact, we could probably also go to our closed ones and we could get rid of this branch as well. There we go. Right then, so this should be saying the right thing down here now. Or presently the wrong thing, soon to be the right thing. So I suppose I should tag this. Let's tag this locally and push it up. Let's do it that way. Is that going to work? Let's find out. This is where I go off-piste and I mess with all Dani's hard work by doing things I don't know if I'm qualified to do or not. So in fact we don't need that, so let's delete that prep release as well. Git hygiene. Right then, let's do a tag. I haven't done tagging with the client for a while. Check out preset. I can't even see it. Create tag here. I don't suppose I need an annotated tag. Let's do that. There we go. And push. Okay. Oops. Did the wrong thing there. Let's so I've got nope. Is it not updated yet? Let's do a refresh on this. Okay. What have I not done then? Because you used push. What have I done? Oh, that's a different discussion. So. Why can't I see on the right screen? Push to origin, that's why. There we go. There we go. Let's try that. There it is. So, with a bit of luck, we have a build running. Started 13 seconds ago. So, I'm hoping all of Dani's stuff will work. I did make a subtle change. I hope I haven't broken it, but you can see Dani's scripts are clearly running here because this is the matrices of what it's going to build. So it's going to build OBS Studio 28 on Kinetic, which is 2210, which is out in 2 weeks. And then Jammy, which is 2204, so all 3 versions on 2204 and all 3 versions on 2004. So that's off and running. I was quite surprised when Dani said that it took 36 minutes to build because my workstation is no slouch and I think it takes about 50 minutes for me to build all of them here. But it's not the compile speed that's the issue. It's the amount of GitHub Git clones that it needs to do to pull in OBS and all of the plugins. Some of the plugins have many submodules, and some of those submodules are OBS itself for reasons I don't understand. So it has to do a lot of clones. Obviously, with this running in the GitHub infrastructure, or obviously Azure or whatever, it means that those clones must be very fast. So I think what I gain in compile performance, I lose on, you know, pulling down lots of source code, whereas I think these runners in GitHub, they benefit from fast Git clones, but maybe don't have as much compile performance. Hello, King Egypt. How you doing? Welcome back. How you doing? Right. What's going on in chat then? So Esme arrived. We said hello to Esme. Yeah, Rust is in the kernel now. Yeah. Who was that? Mr. Dick Steele, I think that may have been. So welcome to the stream. Sometimes the overlays don't trigger altogether. So whilst this is running, I'm going to do a little bit of testing on my local build to sort of show why I find these portable builds so useful for me and what I do with OBS. So let's take a little look at that. What shall we do? I think if we fire up a file manager, drag that down here. This is where we can start with this. So I'm going to do this. Oh, who's setting that up? Big pod. Why are you suggesting this is all going to crash and burn? So in my studio folder, I have folders for the different places that I stream, and I'm going to just throw this directory away. I really hope that's the one I'm not running. It doesn't appear to be. So here's the tarball that I built locally earlier. You can see the revision numbers the same. Hadza, yeah, you've been saving up your channel points for this one, haven't you? There we go. We've even got the right mug today and everything. So Simonort says that looks like some hefty build. Yeah, it is. It's that. We'll go back to the build and talk about just how hefty that build is in a moment, because it's actually going to compile OBS 14 times in that CI job. So we'll look at that in a bit. So here's the version I built locally. So I'm just going to extract this, and it sort of looks like it stalls on one file, and it's the Ceph runtime shared object, which is huge, and obviously compresses really well, but it's an expensive decompress. So see you, Yannick. Thanks for stopping by. It's a shame because oh, hello. There we go. I've got these controllers, but I might save that for another day when you're around. So I've just extracted the build here, and all of the runtime assets are in here, but you'll notice there's no config directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to copy it out of my stable. So this is what I'm actually running OBS with here right now, and here's my config. As this is running live, I don't want to copy this out because it may have open files. So I'm going to pull it from my whip, and this is where I work on new features, and I can work on new configurations, features and effects and what have you in this version of OBS without treading on my stable version. So I can continue to stream. Now I have a ready to go, nothing's half-baked, usable stream, and when this one's finished I can, roll over the config. So I'm just going to take the config from here, and all I have to do is copy it and paste it into this one, and that's it. So upgrading and migrating to different versions is super easy now, and this is the executable. So I'm actually going to run this other version of OBS at the same time. So I'm going to hit run, and it will say,
thanks for the resub, King Egypt.
Thank you very much, King Egypt. That's very kind. So it is telling me, uh-oh, you're already running a version of OBS, so you sure you want to do this? And because these are not in a confinement sense, but they are isolated from one another, it's quite safe to do so. So I say yes. And somewhere around here, in fact, here we go. This is confirmation that upgrade to the scene switcher worked, because the configuration I've copied in was configured with scene switcher 1.18.1, and we've obviously upgraded that. So do I want to create a backup? No, I don't. Now that has opened a full screen on another screen here. So I'm going to just make this small and bring it down. So here it is. Here's another copy of OBS running my current configuration, and I think I might even be able to do funky stuff like this, where if I change the view, canvas, can I how do I do it? There's somewhere in here where I can tell it let it resize the canvas window, but I can't remember how to do it. Preview scaling, scale to window. There we go. So here we go. This is OBS inside my OBS. So this is also useful on those occasions when I want to demo something in OBS. I now can have very quickly multiple instances of OBS to do, you know, live demonstrations of stuff. So this is the value of this, and you know, here's the scene switcher, and we've already seen the prompt to show that that was working. So, you know, this was how I validated this build, you know, was golden, good to go, and why we've triggered that build in OBS. And then in here is where I've been working on some new features for the stream, which I'm not gonna, they are half-baked, so they're not ready to demo. But there we go, this is the value of this. I really find this very useful. So there we go, that was how I built this revision locally to confirm it's all working properly. Now I see there was some comments here, so let me just catch up there. So okay, some conversation on different pricing strategies for the different cloud providers, and yes, OBSception, Dani, isn't it great? It's really useful. And you know, one of the side benefits is that my capture card is one of the few that captures the cameras, is one of the few that can do multiple connections, so I don't have to do anything clever to expose the camera source inside multiple versions of OBS. So it's really great. So Cassie Dev has got an interesting comment. Says your Mate looks very sexy. Did I show much of the desktop? I'm not sure I did. Shame Ubuntu Mate doesn't seem to be working on your hardware. What hardware have you got? How is that possible? It runs on everything. What have you got? Don't tell me it's a PDP 11 or something. I'd be fascinated to know. I can't imagine what you must have. Right then. So that was how we proved it works, and a little demo of like why I find this extremely useful. So last night I switched over to a new stable build, and I renamed my old stable build old, and that's so I keep one, this like last known good. So if I move over to the stable one and there is a problem, I've still got the previous version that I can just start up. So it's really so helpful, and enables me to move independently. So let's see how are these jobs doing. I assume this updates dynamically. So we're 10 minutes in. Let's have a look at this one. Build. Can we actually peek at what it's doing? Oh, it is compiling. So I can see here that it's, because of these numbers, this is how many compile steps out of it's done. And because it's 5:37, as I said, each of these jobs is going to build OBS twice, and I think this is doing the first build of OBS. So the reason it builds OBS twice is it builds vanilla OBS, so just with the AGA camera SDK, which is now like a first-party feature, and with the browser, the Ceph stuff overlaid to give you browser sources. So it builds that vanilla version and installs it into the root file system of the container. So that puts all of the libraries, header, CMake files, pkg config files in the system. And the reason we do that is that some of the plugins that I ship can be built in the OBS source tree, which is the next compile step that it will do. It will build OBS again, but with a whole bunch of the plugins overlaid. I'll show you that in a moment. But then some of the plugins can only be built outside of the OBS source tree, but they require that they can find the headers and libraries in the system in order to compile and link, which is why we do that vanilla build and install it to the root of the system, so those out of tree plugins can compile and build. So I'll just sort of show you that distinction as to how those two sets of plugins are organized. So if we look in the build directory, you can look at this in the GitHub project if you're interested. We'll just do the 28 versions. So we have, for each version of OBS, we have these plugins. This in-tree file is the plugins that will be cloned and overlaid and enabled on the OBS source tree. So in the second compile, which the CI job will do in a moment, it will check out all of these plugins, enable them in the CMake, and when it builds OBS, all of these plugins get compiled inside the OBS source tree with it. This is, for plugins that support it, this is great because it means whether you're building in portable mode or not, all of the assets get put in the right place. And then these are the plugins that are built from source that build out of tree. So I see we've got a thank you for queuing that up, whoever's monitoring the chat. So Cassie Dev says there seems to be a problem with NVIDIA. Once I install the distro and install NVIDIA, it boots to a black screen and freezes. Not happened on normal Ubuntu. Well, that's odd because I use NVIDIA graphics cards myself. So I don't know what to say about that. How very unusual. What NVIDIA card have you got? I can only think of one thing that could potentially be at play there, but it should work the same on Ubuntu. Do you install the drivers yourself, or do you click the install third-party drivers tick box in the install wizard? So these are then built out of tree, and I've got this sort of configuration path here. So it's the path to the GitHub repository, and then I add these either versions or commit hashes to define which version of the plugin I want, because this is obviously like cherry picking an unreleased version of this plugin because I know that commit hash has fixes that I want to include. And some of these plugins, the plugin authors don't actually version or tag every release, so you have to sort of do a little bit of Git archaeology to find the commit hashes that reference stable versions. So on the OBS forum plugin resources, you'll see these plugin authors are releasing 1.2.3, but when you go and look at their GitHub project, they've never tagged a release ever, so you have to sort of find the commit hash that references a stable version, which is what most of these commit hashes represent. So Cassie Dev says that they do use the tick box, and they have an RTX 3050. Okay, interesting. So my initial thought, and it's probably not this given that you're ticking the box, is that the incorrect driver generation has been installed for your graphics card, but given you've got a 30 series card, the latest generation of drivers should be fine. Until very, I mean, I said I use NVIDIA. I do have NVIDIA in here, but I don't use it for any display out. For anyone that's not set, I've got 2 GPUs in here. I've got an AMD and an NVIDIA card in here. I use the NVIDIA just for compute. On the one in the other office, it's just an NVIDIA card. I've never had any issue really with NVIDIA. No, not really. Other than pre-release versions of Ubuntu, I've never had any issues with NVIDIA drivers on Ubuntu. It just works. So I'm very surprised to hear that's not working correctly. I wonder what could be going on there. Curious. Anyway, let's go and take a look and see how these builds are progressing. 17 minutes it's been going, it says. So I can see here the compile performance is poor. Like, my machine compiles this stuff embarrassingly quickly. So the build times on GitHub they are benefiting heavily from the clone speed of the repositories rather than the compile performance, because to build OBS, the vanilla version, on my machine, I think it takes like 15 seconds. So, you know, this has been running for 18 minutes and I think that most of that's the build time rather than the checkout time. So, yeah. I wonder if you can pay more pennies to get faster builds. That said, we are being rather grabby because we've got, you know, 7 of these jobs, and as I say, each of them is going to build OBS twice. Here we go. That's what I was expecting to see. Because the OBS 26 job has fewer plugins, it should finish first. And also, not only are there fewer plugins, that version of OBS isn't as large, so that has a lower compile overhead. So there we go. This one has completed, and is this the... Oh no, here's the upload artifacts. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so I'm pretty sure there was a way in here you can see the artifacts that came out of a particular part of the workflow, but maybe I don't get to see that until this runs when all of the jobs have concluded. So we should start seeing some more of these. Here we go. So that's 26 for Jammy has concluded as well now. So yeah, going pretty good. So let's just see what Dani's saying there. So Big Pod says no, for faster workers you need to have your own. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'm not going to complain about free compute resources. So King Egypt says, talking of dodgy hardware, they bought a Pentium Silver N6005 machine, the 15 watt, for a Nextcloud and Jellyfin server, but my NVIDIA T400 arrived, so I'm thinking I should plug it in and see if I can run any games, just for the lols. Yes, you can run games on the T400. There are a couple of YouTube channels that specialize in budget gaming configurations. There's one in the UK, I quite like him. He's very British, and he sort of has these, he finds good deals on eBay, but he always films his graphics cards in his garden. It's quite sweet. But he did some gaming benchmarks with the T400, and other than, I think it's only got 2 gigabytes. I think there's a 2 gigabyte and 4 gigabyte version of the T400, and he was looking at the 2 gigabyte. But other than the VRAM limitations, it was surprisingly competent. You know, you could play a number of games, you know, with settings. I did a recent downgrade / upgrade in my system. Some of you might remember I was talking about using a Thunderbolt controller for the capture card and the NVIDIA T600. Well, I tried that and I came up with another option. So let's go to here. I wonder if this will show it. Let's just drop into a lower level directory. There we go. Let's do that. So I have now got a Radeon RX 6700. In fact, this one, the 6700 XT, in this machine. So I've downgraded from the 6900 XT to the 6700 XT, and the reason I've done that is the 6700 XT that I have is a dual slot card, and what that enabled me to do is fit all of the cards that I want in my machine, because the 6900 XT is a 3 and a bit slot card, and it encroaches into one of the PCI slots, which meant that I couldn't get all of the graphics cards and storage cards in the system that I wanted. So by putting the lower power 6700 XT in, which is slimmer, I can now get the T1000 in next to it. So I'm now using the T1000 for compute. In fact, MV top is what we want. We have a look here, you can see here's my OBS Portable running here, and OBS Portable is using the NVENC on the T1000 to encode this stream. It's doing it right now. So you can see the encoder is being utilized at 42%. So I've taken a downgrade on the AMD side and a slight upgrade on the NVIDIA compute side, but overall it's brought the power consumption of the box down considerably. But it also means I can get my PCI storage adapter back in, so my 8TB storage adapter is back in, and also keep the quad HDMI capture card. So all of the slots in the system are now fully populated. So I'm very happy that I can now get everything I wanted in this machine. And I think forevermore I'm going to be seeking out dual slot cards for the primary GPU on this system. So BigPod, I think you were asking about how I'd organised my NVIDIA card. This is the change that I've made. I've abandoned my plans to use the multi-slot Thunderbolt enclosure. Yeah, Paul, this is part of it. So Paul points out lower power consumption is always good in the current climate. Economic climate, I think you mean. So I'm doing it for both climates. In the summer, this machine just got ridiculously hot. So I've been able to bring the power and therefore heat output of this down considerably. I also changed the way I cool this machine over the summer, because the AIO system, the water tank, was just saturated. I could have used it to brew a cup of tea. It was that hot all the time. So it's all airflow now. But I also tuned the power targets of the processor and was able to bring the processor power consumption down considerably, but keeping all of the performance, which I did last weekend or a few days ago. So that's made a huge difference. And then by pulling down, because I originally had a 3090 in here, the 6900 XT was a huge step forward in terms of power reduction. The 6700 XT more so. So I think in total, since the summer, I've brought the, it's going to sound ridiculous, but the power draw on this box is down over 300 watts from where it was. So yeah, it's economic and thermal reasons. yeah, I know petrol prices they're a little bit more sane, but not quite So King Egypt asks, does the upgrade to the T1000 help NVENC, or was it for CUDA? So you are correct. The T400, T600, T1000 have exactly the same NVENC ASIC as the 3000 series graphics cards. So you will see no performance benefit for NVENC. They all perform the same. NVENC encodes on my 3090 run at the same speed as they do on my T600, which will be the same speed as they run on the T400. NVENC configuring, depending on how you configure it, will use some GPU resources if you're using the psychovisual stuff and some of the other flags. But it's not a lot, and the T400 is more than capable to absorb that. In fact, I think you can see it if I run NVTop. I think it will show there's a little bit of GPU being used. Here you go, 9% GPU, and that's because all this card is here to do is do basically video encoding and things like, you know, DaVinci Resolve. So I've got everything turned up to 11 in terms of video encoding, and it barely touches you know, the limits of the machine. So the only advantage of the T1000 is more video RAM, and it does have a little bit more CUDA capability, and that's beneficial in things like DaVinci, where it will use those for its, you know, rendering. It's not a CUDA powerhouse, but it's way better than nothing. So I'm using these NVIDIA T-series cards as a sidecar to basically mean that I can use NVENC in Shotcut, I can run DaVinci Resolve, I can use NVENC in OBS, and I can split that workload. So it's a bit like having a dual PC streaming setup without having two PCs, because I now don't have to worry about bottlenecking my GPU. When I was doing game streaming, admittedly we were going a bit crazy, but I could bottleneck the GPU whilst I was game streaming and doing all of the NVENC encoding, and now that's almost not a concern because of splitting those workloads across GPUs. Okay, fixed function explain to me how a fixed function hardware is not an ASIC. It is an ASIC. You read the hardware specifications from NVIDIA. It clearly is. It's an ASIC. Right. Love those hangers. I have two. Really? What am I talking about now? I don't know. Right then. So hopefully that answers your question. If you've got, if I was building like a lower power rendering machine, I would use a T400. They're as little as I saw one the other day for like 98 quid. So I think that's quite a decent price for like an add-in card to specialize on that stuff. So the NVENC encoder is not part of the GPU CUDA complex at all. It is a separate ASIC chip that happens to be on the board or on the silicon, but it's not part of the CUDA complex. So King Egypt got the T400 for 77 quid. Well, that's a bargain. Well done. That deal of the day. That is. Good job. Right, let's go and see how those compile jobs are going. Alright, so the 27s are finished now. So how long did they take? So they took half an hour. So these, I think Dani showed me 35 or 36 minutes. So we should be 5 minutes away from these concluding. And what I'm going to do is, when these build, I'm going to pull one down and test it locally, because I have a concern a change I've made might break one of the features that's supposed to function. So I'm just going to test it to see if I've made a Horlicks of everything. If I have, it's fine. It's not a nightmare scenario or anything, but it does mean I need to get a free consultation from Dani to figure out what I've done wrong. Yeah. Oh, it's not going to be a failed build. I think I say that. I think the builds will function. I changed the way that some of the environment variables are exposed to the build, and that might mean, if I've got it wrong, because I've never used it before, if I've got it wrong, some of the features of OBS will be disabled, and that's what I just want to test. So Dani says they didn't mean to imply that it was part of the CUDA complex. Okay, I meant that even if it was included inside the same wafer, it's still an ASIC, right? Yeah, I think the difference between ARM cores and the accelerator stuff alongside, yeah. And I'm very interested to see what well, we've now had Intel release their Arc GPUs, which have got AV1 encoders. I haven't even looked to see what the state of exposing the AV1 encoder from those GPUs on Linux looks like at the moment. And similarly, the NVIDIA 4000 series are releasing, is it next week? Is it the 12th? And they've got AV1 encoders, but I'm seeing that upstream OBS are still working on the enablement, but I don't know. But I can almost guarantee that's probably Windows only. So again, that will need researching what's required in FFmpeg. Oh, here we go. We're nearly done. To enable connecting up the AV1 encoder on those GPUs, and then we've got the Radeon. What are they up to now? Radeon 4000 series cards are due in November, and I'd be surprised if they don't have AV1 encoders. And the other thing I'm going to be looking at in the future is, now I've got access to all of these different ways to encode stuff. One of the features in these builds is an advanced VA-API encoder, which means you can do accelerated H.264 and H.265 on compatible Intel and AMD IGPs and GPUs. And I'm really interested in doing like a qualitative comparison of NVENC, X264, and then these accelerated encoders for Intel and AMD, and use VMAF from Netflix to actually sort of do an objective quality comparison to see how it all compares, because it might be that NVENC isn't the holy grail anymore. I'm being told in corners of the internet that if you use alternative encoding capabilities in OBS on Linux, which is basically through the GStreamer framework, you can get some significant performance advantage and quality improvements. Hello, Enough Stuff. Welcome to the stream. So Enough Stuff says hacker news discussion of NVIDIA dropping hardware encoding on the latest Jetson Orion. Is it Orion? Interesting. Okay. I've seen people struggling to get encoding working on that platform. I've not tried myself. I don't have one, but I have seen people struggling generally with it. I did notice one of the people looking at the NVIDIA 4090, the Founders Edition, did notice that for the first time the box actually says like Windows 10, Windows 11 and Linux on the box. So NVIDIA must be feeling confident about their Linux support. I don't suppose anything significant has changed. So Big Pod says NVIDIA have a new generation encoder. They do. Yes, and it's got AV1. So yeah, Intel AV1, NVIDIA AV1 I'm going to guess that AMD will have an AV1 encoder as well. I would be shocked if they don't. Not surprised, because AMD don't have like that same ecosystem of tooling that NVIDIA has for sort of streamers. But yeah, I would expect to see AV1, at least hope, maybe. Since I've moved this machine from the 3090 to the 6000 series Radeons, because I've now had two in here, I've been very happy. From a desktop Linux point of view, I'm very happy with those 6000 series cards. I'll be interested to see. I really hope that this trend of mega fat power hungry GPUs, hopefully further down the stack we'll see some dual slot ones come up next year, because I'm not prepared to run these powerhouse things. What's going on here with this one? Why is this one still whirring? Why is the Kinetic 28 build still going? Am I just looking at a screen that hasn't updated? No, show all jobs. Where is it? Build OBS for Kinetic. Oh yeah, it's doing the second compile. You can see here 841, much higher than 576 or whatever it was. So this is doing the build with the source plugin. So this has still got a ways to go, because it needs to finish this build and then build all of the plugins. So I reckon that's still 10 minutes out, maybe. Gonna guess. So yeah, so King says supposedly you can chain the AMG Pro codecs via G streaming without replacing the 3D drivers. That improves encoding, maybe. So I'm not using the AMD GPU Pro drivers at all. I'm using the open source drivers, mostly because the performance of the Pro drivers is lacking. It does have the advantage of the AMD Media Framework, the AMF encoder, but the newfound trick. In fact, let's open up our OBS demo copy that we had earlier. Did I leave the window? No, I didn't. Let's go and actually I'll show you what we've got. So excuse me. So I'm just navigating to the folder. Here we go. I'm just navigating back to where this was set up. Let's go here. OBS, this one here. I think that might have been that build finishing. Oh no, just going quicker. So let's open this one up. And this is what's built into this version of OBS. Hello? Did I click launch anyway? That did not launch anyway. Did I click the wrong button then? Me making sure I'm still streaming. I am. Okay, let's try that again. Open. Run. Launch anyway. There we go. Okay. Right then. So, if we come down to the settings for this, let's just put this over enough of the screen that it's not confusing for me. Or less confusing. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's try that again. Right then, so if we have a look at the settings down here, bearing in mind this is a duplicate of the setup that I'm running right now, in my output I'm using this encoder. Now this actually comes by way of the StreamFX plugin, which basically gives you access to...
B7H30 is raiding with a party of 10.
Wow! Well, hello Raiders, welcome to the stream. I'm doing very well. What were you just streaming? We're looking at some OBS stuff. I'll explain more. But what were you just streaming? What have you been working on? So let's do hello. So let's do shout out. Oh, what was that? To BH, crikey, can't type for toffee. No, B7H30. There we go. So we're looking at OBS. We're looking at OBS builds on Linux, specifically Ubuntu. And I was just talking through some of the encoder stuff. So you were working on your podcast episode. The last pass breach. Oh, right. Okay. I usually work on Linux. Very nice. Yeah, so we're mostly Linux lovers here on this channel. A lot of desktop Linux with a bit of Raspberry Pi stuff thrown in. And at the moment we're building custom versions of OBS with over 40 plugins built in, and they're portable builds for Ubuntu. So we're currently testing out CI/CD jobs on GitHub that are trying to build 14 versions of OBS, and here's the progress ticking through, where we'll find out if it's all worked in a few minutes. But what I was just about to look at, now I'm going to get confused which version of OBS I need to look at. This is it. So I'm running OBS inside OBS at the moment. So the StreamFX plugin's great for Linux users because it exposes all of the tunables of the NVENC encoder.
Thank you for the follow, Sergio Quijano.
Thanks, Sergio, for the follow. Welcome to the stream. You're Vim for the win. I'm a visual code.
Thank you for the follow, user 95787.
Hello, 95787. Welcome to you all. Thanks for stopping by. So if you want to really turn up the wick.
Thank you for the follow, B7H30.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the follows. So if you really want to turn up the sort of encoding quality on Linux with NVENC, StreamFX is the plugin to use. And so I use StreamFX twice. Once to do the stream here, and then I use a different profile for doing the recording. So I use CQR configurator. Paul's introducing you all to the Chelsea cucumber, which is something of a channel meme. We'll get on to testing the new builds of OBS in a moment and see if it worked. So and then I use a different setup to record what my local recording, which is what I then use to top and tail and upload to YouTube. But what we'll look at is this. I'm not in deep thought at the moment, not just yet. I know what I'm doing. I'll let you know when I'm struggling. I've got some ideas to jazz this up as well. I was playing with some fun stuff last night. So included in the build of OBS that we're making at the moment is this VA-API. Now you'll see this one, FFmpeg VA-API. VA-API is the API through which it exposes effectively the AMF features for AMD and Intel QuickSync. That's the common API that's used for that on Linux. This is the VA-API encoder that's exposed by OBS itself. This one, I know this is not straightforward at all. This one is a VA-API encoder from a third-party plugin which exposes the GStreamer hooks into VA-API. This is the hot new source. This is far more performant than the FFmpeg version that comes from the OBS project. And for streaming, you would just set this to constant bitrate. Here's my top tip for you as well. Let's just find, where's bitrate configured in this? Has it actually twigged that I've changed it? It hasn't, has it? Oh, no, max B frames. We want Kabak. Why is that? Huh. I'm not seeing for looking. Oh, there it is, bitrate here. Here's my other top tip for Twitch. You'll see people talking about 6,000 kbits and 8,000. Do 7,200. That's got your 800 bit 10% overflow accommodated. That's your magic number for streaming to Twitch. It won't get you into any hot water, and that's what I've been using for over a year. Significantly ups the quality of your... So 8,000 is... You have to be really careful. You get to 8,000, so constant bitrate is never constant, even in H.264. It always varies, depending on what the scene's doing. So when somebody raids the channel, for example, or any of those follow things go off and all of that confetti fires, if I had my bitrate set at 8,000, it would clip above 8,000, no problem at all. So you have to stay under 8,000. If you stream at over 8,000 kbits for long enough, Twitch will nix your stream. It's a known thing. So 7,200 gives you enough headroom that those spikes don't clip over 8,000. Technically 8,000 is not supported. There's rumours, you'll hear myths about 8,000 is for partners. It's not true. If you go and read all of the T's and C's on Twitch's website, 6,000 is their maximum supported bitrate. There's no mention of 8,000 anywhere. So 8,000 is like a cutoff. So 7,200 is your magic number. And obviously, if I'm streaming at 60 frames per second and 1080p, if you stream at 30 frames per second, quality goes up, or visual fidelity goes up, because you've got more bits per frame, and the lower the resolution, you know, again, you get more bits per frame. So there we go. Hopefully that's explained that. But this encoder is a bit like StreamFX in that it exposes all of the tunables. And for streaming, set that as the bitrate, set this as constant, and then this is the magic thing here, tick Kabak, and that will get you pretty decent quality video off AMD and Intel. So that's built into this build of OBS. You can also, so this GStreamer encoder is from the same developer, and they've basically made this as like a dedicated encoding solution because this became so very popular very quickly over the summer, thanks to some Reddit research. Yeah, so but on Linux it's not great because you need access to some of this stuff to actually like turn it on, like, and it's specifically, this is not enabled by default in the Kabak isn't enabled by default in the VA-API encoder from OBS, which is why, you know, these things exist that expose all of the toys. So there you go, that little insight into what I'm tinkering with encoders. What I want to do is I've got a machine I'm building on a test bench over here. I'll have access to Intel, AMD and NVIDIA encoders all on the same machine, and I'll be able to produce some raw I've got my OBS up here as the thing I'm looking at. Let's kill that one. There we go. Oh, we're building the plugins in the background here. So I want to capture some raw video of like this stream and some gameplay, and then encode them using the different encoders with different B frame numbers and different tunables, and actually figure out like where the quality performance sweet spots exist for all of the options. So Tommy says, by the way, how bad will the new Fedora VA-API issue be for OBS users? I don't know what the VA-API issue in Fedora is, what could be. Care to enlighten me? But as Big Pot says, when quick sync works, it is good. Fedora killed the codec support. For what? I'd love to see a reference to what you're describing there. Oh, okay. Thank you for the link, Dani. Should we go and have a look at that? Let's have a quick look at this. Seeing as though people are talking about it, this is news to me. So when did this? Oh, disagree. Go away. Let's go and have a look. So this was from last week, by the looks of it. Currently making use of. Oh, that's unfortunate because everything I've just explained that I've learned about those VA-API plugins came by way of the Fedora community from some posts on Reddit in like July. So this is unfortunate news. That's a shame. Why is this? Oh. That curious. Okay. I imagine there'll be a copper repo if there isn't one already that has all of this stuff enabled. Yeah, I realise that the codecs are patented. I mean, that's the whole reason AV1 exists. It's a bit premature to drop them though. Oh, okay. I mean, I know in Ubuntu they're in the universe. They're in packages that exist in universe. Because again, they can't be shipped by default. Okay. Yeah, and you know, Fedora and Debian and Red Hat, they've always been very mindful of you know, what's shipped in the main repos, as Ubuntu is. But you'll know that, or you may not know, but in Ubuntu, the FFmpeg libraries have versions with -extra on the end, and the -extra versions exist in universe, aren't shipped by default, but have the additional codecs and what have you enabled. Yeah, and that poopy. But also, you know, these codecs are available in Debian as well via the contrib repositories. There are ways to make them available. But yeah, well, there we go. So that's going to be unfortunate. I guess that may spike an interest in getting AV1 working on all of the GPUs as they become available. So, you know, maybe it's no bad thing in that respect. You know, necessity is the mother of invention after all. Right, Dani, it's all... Look at this. Oh, have we actually finished? Is this finished wearing? It's not quite finished. What's this one up to? It says it's done. But this one says it's still running. I wonder what that is doing. Yeah, I leave it to the lawyers, Dani. Let's just have a look and see if we've got any assets in the not yet. It doesn't look like. Oh, hello, here we go. Check it out. What have we got here? We've got 23 assets. Hey, there's Dani. Look, so we've got 26 on 2004. So this is the manifest. I'll show you that in just a moment. Let's just see what we've got. We've got 26 on 2204. Okay. We've got 27. Okay. and 27 again, and then 28. That's all of them. That is all of them, isn't it? Well, check it out. And this is a draft. Is this a draft or is this a release? This is a release. It looks like. So there we go. It's built the release notes. This is rather lovely, Dani. Thank you very much. Yeah, because you didn't have the past version, so there we go. Proof positive that you got that right. So when Dani was explaining this to me, they were running on their forked repo, and they didn't have the release history, so they weren't certain if the release notes were going to be formatted correctly. But it is indeed formatted quite correctly, and Dani says it's currently a draft. Yes, so that's great. That's ideal, in fact, because what I want to do is download one of these and test. So Proton Beamed, welcome back. Good to see you again. So I'll just explain. So this is obviously the hash of the archive, so you can verify the integrity. We'll take a look at the one we're going to download. So we're going to download 28 for 2204, and the text file is the manifest. So the build, let's just stick it in the root directory, that's fine. The manifest is generated at build time, and it explains everything that was installed in the container to build this version of OBS Studio. So if you were ever curious what's actually inside it, each revision comes with a manifest where you can access precisely what was used to build it. And we should see in here, there we go, Scene Switcher 1.19.1. So that's wonderful. So let's go and download that build and give it a test. Because I'm curious to see if the service integration works, because that's the bit that I potentially have not done correctly. Looks like there's some interesting patent law discussion going on in chat there. I bet it's a non-trivial debate. So yeah, leave it to the lawyers. There we go. This is what I want. I want that build. I'm running this version of Ubuntu, so let's stick it in a new directory. We'll just call this test. Well, again, because I can put this anywhere I like. This is the beauty of these things. We can just stick them anywhere. Oh, is this on the right virtual screen? Yes, it is. So I've just dumped that in a directory called test, so we'll just extract that. I might have to do part of this off screen, because what I'm going to try and do is authenticate an account with Twitch through OBS and see the release job didn't get triggered. So what does the release job do? Is that the thing that actually like sets it, whether it's draft or what have you? I'm just looking at Dani's comments in chat. They're saying that it looks like the one step didn't quite finish. Yeah, it's a GitHub issue. I'm certain. Yeah. Oh, and it's done. Okay, good. Thank you. We'll go back and check on that in just a moment. So this is an empty thing. So if I run this, what you'll see is launch anyway. First thing you'll notice is it uses all the defaults because, oh, hang on, maybe you can't see it. I think this might be, yeah, this is actually on a different screen. Oh, that one's on the right screen. Some of these windows have appeared on the wrong display. So I'm being told about my WebSocket stuff. That's fine because I've already got a WebSocket instance listening on that port. Oh, come on. Oh, this is the only thing about OBS. It does pop up an awful lot of these things, and these are not ones that I've added that are doing this. And then we get this one. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do now is yeah, okay. So my thing didn't work, Dani. So I'm going to be picking your brains in Discord after the stream to figure out what I have done wrong. I'll explain now very briefly. I have some environment variables in GitHub secrets that I want to make sure are exposed to the build scripts. So I'll have a chat with you because I've not used that functionality in GitHub workflows before, so I'm not quite sure if I need to do anything special to access those environment variables. I'll chat to you in Discord if that's okay. So as it happens, what I might do is not release these builds that we've just made, because that will cause a regression for anybody that has used those integrations. So this is public, and I think I'm just going to drop this build after all of that work. Add an inventory. Okay, so Dani, I'll discuss that with you in Discord if you don't mind, because I don't want to get into discussing secrets on stream, but I'll pick your brains. But thank you for everything. This is fantastic. Had it not been for my naivety, we'd be good to go here. So I'm pretty happy with this. This is great. So yeah, we'll just fix up that little issue, and then maybe a bit later today we'll actually have a release come out. But I'm going to just hit this delete button. In fact, I'm going to actually not do that just yet. I'm going to do this. So yeah, there we go. We see it as a released version now. So it is a proper release. It's not draft. It is a proper release. This is ace. I'm going to be all over this. This will delete the information. Yes, I'm going to do it. And there we go. All that work. There's an unreleased button, is there? Unreleased, delete the release. Delete the release and delete the tag. Okay, I will go and delete the tag now. Oops, that's the wrong tool. It's back to the mighty Git Kraken. So let's do this. We'll say delete from origin, delete, and delete raw locally. There we go. Well done, King Egypt. I do like my sea green lights when that gets triggered at home. This is quite good. I like that. So we deleted the release and we've deleted the tag, and I do believe I've pushed the tag to origin, I think. Let's go and have a look. I think so. Let's go and have a look on GitHub. And yeah, we've only got 2 tags. We've got those 2. There we go. So I think I followed the protocol correctly there. Yeah, I did. I was just making sure it had been put. I didn't know if it did that like push or push immediately. And clearly it does. Right then, nice. Okay, was there anything else? I was going to look at controllers, but Yannick's gone, so I'm not going to look at the controllers. Ah, that was it. So I've got 2 project ideas. I've got a project idea and a discussion to have very quickly. So I've got an idea for a project which is either going to be called Quick Spawn or Machine Spawn. And think of it as a sister project to QuickEmu, except instead of doing virtual machines, it's containers. Because all of this systemd-nspawn stuff I'm doing in this build workflow is a workflow I use on my local machines all the time. I use it for building the Raspberry Pi images. I use it for everything. And so I want to have a way to test like new versions of graphical applications without having to start up a whole VM. That's the idea. So I want to integrate it with systemd-nspawn and the machine cuttle command that comes with systemd, as opposed to using Docker and what have you. So I don't know whether to call it like quick spawn and make it part of the QuickEmu collection of tools, or if it should stand apart as like machine spawn, because once you've done machine spawn you would then use machine cuttle to actually manage, you know, the containers. Very good, King Egypt. There's an 80s reference there, my word. So yeah, roller coaster, big build release, and then Bobby Ewing turned up in the shower, and it was all a dream. Yeah, nothing you saw here happened. It was great. I learned a bunch of stuff. This is part of the thing about doing stuff on stream. Sometimes you just have to accept it didn't work out quite the way you hoped, and there's always an opportunity to come back. If I can, I'll show what I learn about doing the secrets in another stream at some point to sort of close the loop on that, but I don't want to do any of that on stream because I don't want to expose any secrets. So Dani and I will have a chat in Discord about that. If you're not in the Discord, come and join. Here we go. There's thousands of Linux lovers in here. Come and join. We're a friendly crowd. So yeah, so I'm thinking of making this command either, I think machine spawn, I think it needs to stand alone, but the thing is that these containers will be bootable, so they will run like a virtual machine in some respects. So I think it might be possible to like bootstrap entire desktop operating systems inside them. At least that's what I'm hoping. And what I'd like to do is take care of being able to run everything from like simple CI/CD workflows inside them. So something that you can reuse inside the GitHub workflow, just as we've seen today. So maybe we can have a template workflow, which is if you want to use systemd-nspawn to sort of create your build environment inside a container, this is how you would do it. But I also want to test graphical applications because like Yannick, who's part of the community, is working on a lot of Flutter applications, and I know it would help him to be able to build to multiple target distros and sort of test them. So, and I saw I don't know if Takov's still here, but Takov's been doing something similar as well. So that's the idea for the project. What do we think? Quick spawn or machine spawn? Bearing in mind that unlike QuickEmu, it will integrate directly with systemd. So once it's created the container for you that does all of the magic to make things work, you'll then use machine cuttle to actually start, stop, boot, you know, and all the other stuff. This is just to create the runnable container. So Dani suggests quick container. I worry if that's a bit too generic. I did think about that. I thought using spawn fits in with the whole because it's systemd-nspawn is the actual tool that, you know, runs these containers. Bootable containers, yeah, you can boot containers, go through the full init process, because it's systemd. If you put the systemd container tooling inside a container, you can then use systemd-nspawn to boot a container, and it will use systemd inside the container as PID1 and do a full init thing. So Popey's going for I'm not even sure I can say it. Oh, because it's a single word, I can't highlight it. Quantainer with a Q. Quick quantainer. That would be a nightmare to say, wouldn't it? So, so Nuno's saying, take a look at Footloose. Is Footloose a tool that does something similar to what I've just described, Nuno? Because I mean, so I've just described basically using things like Deb Bootstrap to create the container in a way that then it's manageable by systemd. But I'm not interested in Docker or Podman or any of that stuff. I specifically want to use systemd-nspawn. Okay, so something called Footloose. Let's go and see if we can find that. Oh, here we go. Dani's found us a link. Let's go and have a look. Hey, Big Pod, welcome back. Let's go and have a look. Let's go and see, because you'll know from the day job we're all massive container nerds, so you know, part of this is also, you know, learning new stuff. So what does this? Container machines. Yes. So, oh, this looks like it's a, right, okay. Yeah, so this looks like, does this use systemd-nspawn or is it its own runtime? Because I'm not about to create the next LexD. I'm going to use systemd-nspawn and just put a layer on top of it to make standing up the containers really easy, in the same way QuickEmu makes it really easy to create and run VMs. Okay, so Footloose create, that's CentOS, that's an unfortunate example. And then SSH, and it does the inits. Okay, so this looks like it's using systemd-nspawn under the hood, and this is what it knows about. Okay, well this is a useful reference for sure. I'll take a look at this. If this does everything I need, maybe I'll ignore my idea. But if it doesn't, oh, here we go. I think I can see immediately this is not quite what I'm looking for. But it's interesting. Well, I will have a little more of a read about this, but yeah, Nuno, the idea is, yeah, okay. I think I'm going to push ahead, because one of the reasons for making this tool is I want to learn how to do it, rather than simply do it. So I want to know. I think I know already, because Big Pod and I have done this on our work streams a little while ago. We very hastily got, I think it was Firefox running inside a container, by exposing the various sockets and what have you to the host. And I suppose what I'll do is I'll say this: look, if you're interested in container stuff, this is where you can find our work streams. That's where we do work stuff, all container related. I think I want to learn the process, because I think there's value in that for me, and I've got a very specific idea about what I want. So
RW_Grim is raiding with a party of 60.
Hello, Gary. Hello, Gary. Well, thank you very much. You've had a late night, in which case, how you doing? So, welcome, Raiders. Gary, who goes by RW Grim here, is a friend of mine. He's a co-host on the Linux Downtime podcast with me and Joe Ressington and Hayden Barnes. So, I'm going to guess, Gary, you've been doing a stream. Thanks very much for the follow. I'm going to guess you've been streaming development of Pidgin, right? So Gary is the lead developer of Pidgin among among other things. So here we go. For those of you that are here. Oh, hello. What did that say to me? It will only let me do one at a time. What? Oh, Twitch, you are rubbish. Just because I did a shout out moments before. Please wait a minute. I'll use my own shout out command whilst Twitch is being dim. So, for those of you that are here, you want to head over to Gary's channel and give him a follow as well. Because we love a bit of Linux over here, and Gary's all about it as well. So welcome everyone that's come over with Gary. Thank you very much for stopping by. We've been doing portable builds of OBS Studio, and we took the work from Dani, who's in the chat and one of the community contributors, and they added GitHub workflows to our build. So we just did a massive 14 compiles of OBS Studio to build multiple versions of OBS Studio on multiple versions of Ubuntu, and it all worked beautifully except for my bit that I busted, so I threw the whole thing away after waiting an hour for the builds to run. And then we've been poking around at some enhancements to OBS video encoding capabilities by way of third-party plugins that use GStreamer. Also, Gary, I took a look at that GStreamer plugin last night. It's the only one I couldn't get to work. I found a bunch of others which were huge fun, and I can see I'm going to be using a lot, but I couldn't get that one we were discussing to work. And I think it's a lack of knowledge in how to... I think I need to do color conversion in the pipeline, I think, but the error messages that GStreamer are giving me are not verbose enough for me to be certain what I need to do to coerce the pipeline. It enables it, but it doesn't function. So I really want to get that working now. I think that could be a hoot. So I've had a look, and it's built into this build of OBS that I've been working on. So it all works by way of it's an out of tree plugin.
Thank you for the follow for RKZY.
Thank you very much for the follow. Is that Arksy or is the 4 pronounceable? So it all comes by way of this GStreamer plugin here. There is a bunch of functionality accessible through that plugin. It's amazing. A whole load of stuff. It's pretty great. And the author of this plugin also makes this plugin here, which is an advanced... It exposes all the tunables of the encoder over VA-API. So if you've got Intel or AMD GPUs and it's a way to hook into AMF or QuickSync through Linux APIs, it turns on all of the good stuff, and it's far more performant than the FFmpeg implementation of VA-API that's built into OBS. So I was just discussing, this is the new hotness for accelerated encoding on Intel and AMD for us Linux lovers. Yes, I think there's a lot of old schoolers around these parts. Anyway, I was just discussing 2 project ideas. I'm gonna work on something to do sexy containers for desktop Linux. I think I quite like Popey's Quantainer, but I can't pronounce it reliably. So I think I'm undecided on the name. Let's take that discussion to Discord. If anyone's got good ideas for naming that, I quite like Machine Spawn. I think there's a good logo in there somewhere for Machine Spawn. Now the other idea I've had is this. So Deb Get has proven to be very popular among a group of Ubuntu users, and I'd like to popularize it a bit more. So what I'm thinking of doing is running in air quotes an event for Hacktoberfest to land documentation in projects that Deb Get can install and update. In their documentation that says how to install the thing, actually have a bit for Ubuntu users. You could use Deb Get, and I'll come up with like a bit of boilerplate And as people, although I can't track like the Hacktoberfest submissions in the other repos, on an honesty system, if people get their pull requests for documentation landed in like an upstream project, I'll have a document for like Hacktoberfest documentation drive, and you can put a pull request into that doc with your merged pull request for where the documentation, when we can track it. So I can attribute your contribution to Hacktoberfest through Deb Get, even if the upstream project isn't doing Hacktoberfest. And at the end of it, we should be able to see this is how many projects we landed documentation to sort of tell people that Deb Get's a thing and they could be using it. Oh, Luna Park name. Okay, very good. Right then, so that's my idea for Deb Get.
Thank you for the follow, BL1ND Banana.
Oh, I can do this one. Hello, Blind Banana. Thanks very much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. You like that idea, Gary? Leet speed. Well, I think that's an old school thing, Bigfoot. Yeah, it was a thing. It was a thing. I still get excited. I look at the clock fairly regularly when it's Leet o'clock. So 13:37. Yeah, I'm always have a little warm fuzzy moment when I look at the clock when it's 13:37. It happens remarkably frequently. Right. Okay. Well, if you've raided with Gary, I hope you had a great stream over there. And if you've not followed here, please do. I stream here. I'm back from a streaming hiatus. This is my third stream this week. I'm going to be streaming 3 days a week, not whole days, 3 times a week. And I'm going to try and mix up my schedule a bit. So at the moment, all of my schedule says it's usually about this time. But I'm going to be expanding my schedule, which won't be published, ad hoc evening streams to overlap with the US time. So, Discord discriminator, what's that? Oh, you're not a fan of Discord, is that what you're saying? You've got a Discord. Hang on, you've got a Discord, haven't you? I assume therefore that Pigeon works with Discord. Right, so I think what we'll do is we'll have a little look over here. So I'm always keen to find other people. This is something Gary and I were discussing as well, is like trying to identify more of the sort of Linux enthusiast stroke developer streamers. That's what I'm looking through at the moment. I can see some developers that I know that are streaming, but I don't know if anyone knows of anyone that's streaming right now that is very definitely sort of in the Linux camp. Oh, no, it's me. Damn it! I saw Linux in the title. It's my own stream. That's not very helpful. Yeah, I don't see any of the others that I know that are streaming at the moment. That's a shame. We might have to pick someone at random today. If anyone's got any ideas, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to go with a random choice, or maybe we'll go with a tried and tested. There's usually fun stuff going on over there. Cover art, mobile development. No, he's doing his racing game thing again. Lots of game developers. Okay. We'll go to somewhere I know. Tell you what, I wish there was an easier way to do this. Let's do that and take this. Okay. So we're going raiding. We're going to go and see White Panther. They're doing their usual HTML web dev wrangling. So I will see you soon. I'm probably going to stream over the weekend. If not, I'll be back Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. Thursday's over on Slim DevOps. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you all very much for coming. Bye for now.